I know. I was thinking if the skies opened, I could always do Zoom. So.
All right, welcome everybody. Oh, and there's somebody else coming in. Never fails. All right, here we go. Hey everybody, thank you for coming on a possibly rainy night. And thank you on Zoom. All right, so brief introductions. A couple of new people here. I'm Ed Katz. I host the discussion. I was a film major, and I also do marketing. And I was a theater and film critic for a radio station in Connecticut for a couple of years before we came down here. So I would ask everyone on mute up. Ruth, would you be able to just hit the admit button on that one? Just move the mouse until it goes over there. Or I guess he's bounced out.
The blue one on the top.
Yeah. There you go. Thank you. Okay. And if you're on Zoom, please just wave, and we'll call on you. Someone here, if I don't see it, someone here can alert me, and we'll go from there. If you haven't already, please follow me on Facebook, katzreviews.com, and also Twitter and Ed Katz on YouTube. Now, if you're watching and you haven't already seen the movie, go away. You don't want to have this discussion because we're going to do spoilers. All right, so the movie tonight, Hitman on Netflix. And I don't want to talk about the ending just yet. But
Going to surprise us?
Yeah. Who liked the movie? Show of hands. Okay, definitely most people. Oh, we got another one. Can you do one more, Ruth, please?
Oh yeah, he usually comes here, but he was going away. Remember, he's here usually.
Okay, so on Zoom, who liked the movie? Show of hands. Okay.
They all like it.
Almost everybody. Maybe not Jack. Okay. All right. So.
No,
Jack, thumbs down.
Oh, okay. All right. So, and people who did not like it here? Couple in the middle.
Yeah.
Couple in the middle. Okay. All right. So most liked it, a few didn't, or were in the middle. Okay. And as you saw, it did very, very well. The consensus was, it started out on Rotten Tomatoes at 97, but the past couple of weeks it went down to 96. And the audience went from 93 down to 91. So a little bit of a backlash against it, taking the average down only slightly, but it's trending down if there's a way to measure that. So the critics' consensus on Rotten Tomatoes is it's a deceptively dark thriller that's also loaded with laughs. Hitman is an outstanding showcase for leading man Glen Powell, and one of the most purely entertaining films of Richard Linklater's career. I kind of wouldn't argue with most of that. Okay. Right, there were a few funny moments, but I don't know, I wouldn't call it a comedy. So what genre do we think this movie really would fit in as a category?
Phony.
What?
Phony.
Phony.
It's a
Okay.
new name for that movie.
Right. Anyone? Is it a comedy? Is it a romance, an action movie, a drama?
It probably would be put in a comedy, but it wasn't a comedy, right? Right. It wasn't a drama, but it's probably more drama. Pseudo comedy.
Yeah, I think it kind of overlapped a lot of genres. And did it do so successfully? Most of the critics really thought so. I read a bunch of reviews. Only a few had some issues. Now, I will get to the end a little bit now, because the ending, I will be candid, bothered me a lot. It bothered me a lot. I did not like the ending.
It was so different. It was so different.
Well, let's not discuss it until he gets.
Well, so all right, we'll cover it, but I wanted to put that out there so you guys could think about it. So the production budget, it was made for 8.8 million, certainly what would be considered these days a low budget movie. At the box office, it did $1 million, but it was only really put in showcase areas for just a quick run to qualify for awards and at some festivals. And it was sold to Netflix for $20 million, so certainly profitable from that standpoint. But based on the reviews and all the the buzz and the viewership it's gotten, because it was the #1 movie for a while on Netflix, it probably could have done better at the box office.
But does Netflix continue giving royalties of some sort?
Every
Residuals?
film I understand has different rules on that. They may make additional dollars from royalties based on the viewership. It's
Yeah.
possible, but not every deal is like that. They could have just bought it outright.
Ed, when was that movie made and when did Netflix purchase it?
It was made in 2023. It came out at the Venice Film Festival. It was its premiere September 5th of 2023. They bought it shortly after a couple of the festivals. So it really didn't have a big distribution run. And with Netflix, they didn't want it to. They wanted to be the place where it really went. So it was kind of their exclusive showcase. All right, so I wanted to go on to a little bit about the two people who were most responsible for making the movie, Richard Linklater and Glen Powell. So had people recognized Glen Powell before? Let's start
Yes.
with him. Yes. From what?
From Top Gun,
Good, yep.
and I just seen Anyone But You,
Okay, the
That
romantic
was on
comedy
Netflix.
with
Sydney Sweeney.
Sydney Sweeney, right. Okay,
They
good.
say he's the next Tom Hanks. Not
Tom Cruise,
Tom Cruise, I
Right.
mean Tom Hanks.
who
Tom
by
Cruise.
the way, was kind of his idol, Tom Cruise. And he was really passionate about trying out for the Maverick Top Gun movie. And he auditioned. He lost out on the part that he wanted to Miles Teller, who played the son of Iceman.
Yeah.
That's the part he wanted, so he didn't get it. But he impressed the team making it and Tom Cruise, and they offered him a different role, and he didn't like the role, and he didn't want to take it. And Tom Cruise talked to him and said, "Take it and make it your own." And they worked and discussed it, and they discussed it with the director, and he kind of recreated the character for his part in the movie, which I thought was pretty cool. That doesn't usually happen. And how this movie came to be is another kind of interesting story I'll get to as well. But I'll give you a little background. Let's start with Glen Powell, since I'm on him now. I wasn't real familiar with him, even though I've seen him in a couple movies. I saw him in Top Gun Maverick. Off the top of my head, I kind of didn't remember it until I saw the notes. I'm like, oh, that's what he played. Oh, okay, I kind of remember now. But that was it. I didn't see the romantic comedy he was in with Sydney Sweeney, Anyone But You, but it became pretty popular. He was in Everybody Wants Some, which was sort of Richard Linklater's sequel to the movie he made called Dazed and Confused, which I loved, but I didn't get to see Everybody Wants Some, which is the one he was in. If you didn't see Dazed and Confused, it would make a great double feature with Fast Times at Ridgemont High. It's about the last day of high school at a high school in Texas, and the athletes, and they're all trying to figure out what they're going to do next, and they're partying, and kind of a combination of all that. And it's all set in one day, which is the other trademark of the director, who tends to make time-oriented movies. They either take place in one day, because he made the Before trilogy, Before Sunset, Before Midnight, and there was another one with Ethan Hawke. He made those, which were very highly regarded. He also made, what was the name of it? It was really Boyhood. Did anyone see Boyhood? Terrific, terrific movie that took 12 years to make, because they had the kids in it.
Oh, right.
They wanted to show them at different stages. So they shot it over 12 years.
Oh my God.
Including one of the director's daughters. She played the older girl in the movie. But Ethan Hawke, and I forget the actress's name, but they were both in it, and it was really, really well done. He was nominated for Best Picture, and he was nominated for Best Director for it. Okay. So interestingly enough, Glen Powell and director Richard Linklater both have been based in Austin, Texas. Kind of a coincidence, but it kind of led to them meeting each other. So Powell, he was an athlete. Actually, they were both athletes in high school and even college. And in 2007, before his first year of college, Powell landed a role in a movie called The Great Debaters, directed by and starring Denzel Washington. Very fortuitous for him, because Denzel Washington took a liking to him and introduced him to his agent, a guy named Ed L'Amato. I didn't know who he was. I don't know too many agents' names, but he was a huge agent in Hollywood. And he encouraged Powell to move to Los Angeles. Because he said that's where you should go to work. He says, and I don't say this to everybody, so you should do it. So he did. And he started getting larger roles. It took a while, but he started getting larger roles. He was in movie The Expendables 3, an action movie that included Sylvester Stallone and Antonio Banderas. He ended up talking a lot with Stallone and asking him for advice on how to get by in Hollywood. He was in a couple of movies, kind of throwaway comedies called Sex Ed, Ride Along 2, and Scream Queen, Scream Queen's a TV show. And in 2016, he was in Everybody Wants Some, which was filmed in Austin. And he then he had a bigger role as an astronaut. He played John Glenn in Hidden Figures. You remember Hidden Figures, the movie about the African-American women who helped NASA with the math calculations to get them to the moon. So he played John Glenn in that. And now so he did for the Top Gun Maverick, he initially auditioned for the role of Bradley Rooster Bradshaw, but the part went to Miles Teller. But his audition impressed the producers who offered them the role of Jake Hangman Saracen. And Tom Cruise convinced him to accept it, with Cruise offering him greater control over the character. The film was delayed multiple times because of the pandemic, but it turned into pretty much a breakout role for Powell upon its release in the Hollywood community. Working again with the director Richard Linklater, he did voice work on Apollo 10.5, A Space-Age Childhood, which was an animated movie, and Linklater's made a few animated movies. It got really good reviews. I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was great. I did see it, but it got really good reviews. So I thought, I'm not used to watching too many animated movies for adults, but I'll watch it. I didn't think it was as good as the critics did, but it wasn't bad. It was okay. Okay, now, as far as the movie that you mentioned, Anyone But You, that kind of became a sleeper hit. It was released in December of 2023, and it generated buzz because there was speculation about a potential off-screen romance between Glen Powell and Sydney Sweeney. The two stars later admitted that the appearance of a real-life relationship was part of their marketing strategy. So they were flirty with each other doing the interviews to kind of get the rumors going. And Powell's comment to the New York Times was, that's people wanting what's on the screen off the screen, and sometimes you just have to lean into it a bit. The New York Times, when Hitman came out, the New York Times called it a genuine star-clinching turn for him. And well, that was important. So he's about to appear in the upcoming disaster film Twisters that's coming out next month. And then he's going to be in a movie called Huntington. Let's see what else. Okay, so now how we got the agent with Denzel Washington's help, and Denzel Washington's jokingly taking credit for his entire career now. But he said, "I'll never forget it. This is from Hollywood Reporter, an interview with Gary Powell in this past May. I'll never forget it. I sat down with him and Denzel, and it was quick. Ed, the agent, L'Amato, goes, 'You should move out here and give this a shot.' He's like, 'This crap doesn't happen overnight, but you should take the plunge.' And he said he's replayed that conversation over and over in his head. And Washington, who has since joked that Powell owes him his career, gave his blessing. He's like, 'This guy discovered everybody. Don't run from this, Glenn.' So he did it. All right, now I want to get to Richard Linklater. Anyone familiar with some of his movies? Because you've probably seen a bunch of them. Not ringing a bell? Okay.
Familiar with his father.
Was his father Art Linklater? Was he?
Yeah.
I used to love that show.
All right, so the movies you may have heard of, he did Dazed and Confused, which I said, really good movie, got a 94 on Rotten Tomatoes. He did Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, and Before Midnight. That was the trilogy. Each one of them has mid to high 90s. Before Sunrise is actually 100% from 39 critics on Rotten Tomatoes. So pretty good. School of Rock with Jack Black.
That is, yeah.
Okay, that was one of his. And he also worked with Jack Black on the very quirky film called Bernie. I don't know if anyone saw it.
I remember Bernie, yeah.
You saw it?
Yeah.
Okay. Quirky movie. Jack Black, he can be a great actor. I don't think that was one of his best roles because I couldn't figure him out at all and kind of was going back and forth. And I don't think the movie really worked. It got pretty good reviews from critics, but I didn't love it. It was kind of a weird movie.
Hey, I have a question about
Yes.
Is there similarity that all these movies in his repertoire?
There's a couple of them, like the time thing I was saying.
Yeah.
So he goes like, the movie takes place over the course of one day. He has several of those. All the before movies were like that. And then he's got the Boyhood that takes place literally over 12 years. So that's part of kind of his style. I'll get to a little more in a second on his style because there are some things that he does that are a little different. Yeah, directorial. So he was inspired by Raging Bull. That was a big inspiration for him, which has a very kind of aggressive, cutting nature to the movie in the way it was edited and shot.
Opposite of Hitman.
Well, he said, it made me see movies as a potential outlet for what I was thinking about and hoping to express. At that point, I was an unformed artist. At that moment, something was simmering in me, but Raging Bull brought it to a boil. He was influenced by some Eric Romer, foreign film director, whose style is completely opposite of Raging Bull. But yeah, Romer made several morality films, French director, also Francois Truffaut, Joseph von Sternberg, Robert Bresson, Yasuhiro Ozu, and Carl Theodor Dreyer. Oh, and Rainer Werner Fassbinder. So wide variety. So it said a lot of them are less plot-driven and more about human interactions. And I'll get to his thought on this particular movie and why he wanted to do it in a little bit. This isn't the first movie he adapted from the guy who wrote the short story about the real, what's his name? Gary Johnson, right? About the real Gary Johnson. The writer, I gotta find his name now. The guy who wrote the article was in a Texas monthly magazine. Yeah, Skip Hollandsworth, that's the guy's name. So he wrote the story called Hitman in Texas Monthly. But Bernie, the movie with movie with Jack Black, was also based on a story in Texas Monthly by Skip Hollandsworth. So I guess he had a good relationship with him. And good for Skip Hollandsworth because he sold the rights to 2 movies that got made. So he's not the son of Art Linklater, but it was a good joke.
Different spelling.
Yeah. So he was a high school athlete, better at baseball than football. He changed schools to go to a better baseball coach. He was at Sam Houston State, where his mother was a professor. He had a full ride baseball scholarship, but he felt directionless. And after being diagnosed with a career-ending heart condition as a sophomore, he dropped out of college to work on an offshore oil rig in the Gulf of Mexico. And that's really helped him start his film career. And I'm thinking, what? How did that help him start his film career? So it says he made friends with a coworker who would screen old movies on a projector at night. And that quickly became his favorite way to pass the time on the oil rig and helped him develop a passion for cinema. When he got back to land, he continued watching old films. And he went to a repertory cinema in Houston. He would spend, quote, up to 12 hours a day, and then realized he wanted to be a filmmaker. So he used some savings. He bought a Super 8 camera, a projector, editing equipment. He moved to Austin, founded the Austin Film Society in 1985 with his college professor, and the South by Southwest founder, Louis Black, not the comedian Louis Black, and his frequent collaborator, Lee Daniel. And one of his mentors was the New York City critic for the Soho Weekly News, George Morris, who moved to Austin to teach film there. So he made short films. He created his film production company called Detour Film Production. Anyone remember the 1945 movie Detour? Okay, it's a good movie. It's a total film noir movie, about a real femme fatale. And just an relatively innocent guy gets led astray. And that was Detour. 1945 low budget movie, and that's where he named his film production company after. So he made his first real movie called Slacker for $23,000. It grossed more than $1 million. He became kind of a cult film favorite when he made Dazed and Confused, which was based on his years at Huntsville High in Texas and the people he encountered there. Garnered critical praise, grossed $8 million while becoming a hit on videotape. And it was also the breakout movie for Matthew McConaughey. He won the Silver Bear for Best Director for Before Sunrise at the Berlin International Festival. Then he made Suburbia, did not get great reviews. He made Newton Boys, did not get great reviews. Then he made 2 animated rotoscope films. You know what the rotoscoping process is? Where you take a real actor and then kind of trace their movements, the equivalent of it for film. So that's why they move sort of realistically when you see rotoscope animation. So he did a couple films like that, one Waking Life and another, and a Scanner Darkly. Then he hit the big jackpot with School of Rock. He did a remake of Bad News Bears that didn't get great reviews, but was pretty popular. There was a documentary made on him in England from the BBC, and he was nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay for Before Sunset. Okay. All right, and then Boyhood was, I said, 12 years in the making. That was released in 2014. Overwhelming critical acclaim. He won Golden Globes, BAFTAs, Critics' Choice, Best Original Screenplay. He was nominated for, and also Best Picture and Best Director.
What was the name of that one?
Boyhood.
Oh, boy.
Boyhood. That was the one over 12 years. Okay, and I mentioned his style. All right. So out of all the movies he's made, and some of the others you may have heard of, Me and Orson Welles, which was a good movie. Last Flag Flying, I didn't see. Bernie, I mentioned. Before Sunset, School of Rock. So all of his movies average on Rotten Tomatoes 81%. Pretty good. And if you took out Fast Food Nation, which did not get great reviews, and Where'd You Go, Bernadette, which did not get great reviews, probably around a 90. So very highly regarded. And I want to get to a couple interviews because that kind of reveals some of their stuff. Okay. Yeah, I mentioned that one. What was the one with? Any questions or thoughts? Oh, there's someone trying to get in. We're going to get one more. Sorry. I'm a little late. Oh, this is good. Here it is. Here I found it.
How did he stop playing baseball because of medical and then go work on an oil rig?
I was wondering, right? He's got a heart issue, so he can't play baseball, but he goes to work on an oil rig. I thought that was bizarre, right? I'm not the only one. Yeah, that was kind of wild.
I don't think it's easy to work on an oil rig.
No.
I wouldn't
Very
think so.
demanding.
Because the doctor wanted him, the doctor said, yeah, he could work. They needed workers.
Yeah.
He needed money.
That could be, unless, I don't know what his job was there, but he was on the oil rig. So maybe they gave him one not too stressful. So here's what I wanted to get to. This was the interview Richard Linklater did with Vanity Fair. And it says here, Linklater had previously adapted another Hollingsworth piece to film, 2011's Bernie, starring Jack Black. He had long been drawn to Gary Johnson's stranger than fiction story, but he was unclear whether it would work as a film. I love this character, but I wasn't sure of the movie, he previously told Vanity Fair. We've got a great character, great incidents, great moments, all these great characters, but I didn't know if it really went anywhere. And that changed when Powell, who again starred in his 2016 movie, Everybody Wants Him, figured out how to crack the film's tricky third act. His pitch, this is Powell's, hinged on Johnson experiencing what is described as an out-of-character moment at the tail end of the story. When alerted to a woman who wished her abusive boyfriend dead, Johnson did some digging and discovered that his would-be client was regularly battered by her boyfriend and too terrified to leave him because of her fear of what he might do if he found her. That's what Hollingsworth wrote. Rather than orchestrating a sting to entrap the woman, this is in real life, Johnson instead put her in contact with social service agencies and a therapist so she could safely leave her relationship. So that's what really happened. We saw what happened in the movie where he talked her out of doing it and ended up dating her. So Linklater and Powell earned his first screenwriting credit on this movie, built their film around this mystery client. We thought, what if she called him up afterwards? And Linklater told The Hollywood Reporter, we got really fascinated about what that relationship could be. Enter Adria, Arjona's Madison, a woman who seeks Powell's Johnson in hopes that he'll terminate her cruel husband. And I get the pun there, ironic as it is. We knew Gary would have seen the girl's photo when he was doing his case research, and if she was a pretty girl, it'd probably be pretty natural that he would pick a guy who's pretty cool when he's developing his undercover persona for her case. Linklater told the Hollywood Reporter. But then, if they have a connection and she calls him up later, he'd be stuck in that undercover persona when he wants to see her again. So the story could become this whole question about identity. And that's the other thing that the director has a thing with. There's no indication in real life the real Johnson forged a romantic relationship with the abuse victim. But like Powell's on-screen version, Gary Johnson struggled in his real life love life. He was married 3 times and divorced 3 times. Described as a loner by his second wife in the Texas Monthly piece. The woman Molly Bernard plays his ex-wife in the film, but just the one ex-wife. They didn't go into the others. And she said, he'll show up at parties and have a good time, and he's always friendly, but he likes being alone and being quiet. He remained on good terms with Sunny, his second wife. It's still amazing to me that he can turn on this other personality that makes people think he's a vicious killer. Other elements of Johnson's real life were lifted directly from the article and into the screenplay. His 2 cats were really named. Remember their names? Id and Ego.
Right.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Those are his cats, and that's what they were really named. The code phrase he used with clients to confirm they planned to enlist his special set of skills was, in fact, all pie is good pie. He made enemies of many a defense attorney who argued in court that he cleverly twisted the conversation so that their clients have no choice but to request a killing. He said, what I'm really there to do is assist people in their communication skills. That's all my job is to help people open up, to get them to say what they really want, to reveal to me their deepest desires. That's what he told the Texas Monthly writer Hollingsworth. For film research, Hollingsworth gifted to Linklater boxes full of interview transcripts and a lot of crappy videotapes of bad surveillance camera footage showing a society lady in a nice hotel room talking to the real Gary and trying to hire him to kill someone. The recordings were bad, but you watch these moments and it's just unbelievable. I was really amazed by just the banality of the way they discuss it all, chatting about how they would like it done. It was like someone purchasing any other service in our consumer society. It says the director spent some time with Johnson himself, who he described as the chillest dude imaginable to Vanity Fair. He was just the most nonplussed guy, he continued. We would talk about baseball or something, and he was a man of few words, actually. As production of the film neared, Linklater said he attempted to contact Johnson again in 2022. When he heard no response, he learned from Hollingsworth, again, the Texas Monthly writer, that he died. The cause of death was not disclosed. He was also, which was not revealed in the movie, he was shot in a leg during one of the undercover jobs, and he had a couple other close calls. But he did have 70 people arrested. The end of the Hitman movie includes photos of the actual Gary Johnson, and make sure to note that unlike the film character, in real life, he never killed anyone. Okay. All right, any thoughts, any comments anyone has? Not yet, okay.
Yeah,
Rebecca.
Rebecca, yes. You gotta unmute.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, so anyway, I did like the ending. But, it was like a Thomas Crown affair where they go off and they fool everybody. How come you didn't?
Okay, how come I didn't? Anyone else not like the ending? Specifically just the ending? Okay, just a couple.
Yeah, I mean, no,
All right,
living happily ever after.
I thought it
I
was
don't like that.
fun, but it changed.
okay.
It was different. Nobody does that. You never.
Right, it sort of had a happy, except they had to kill a guy to get a happy ending.
Yeah, but he was blackmailing them.
Yes.
I mean, he was no terrific guy, that guy.
No, he was no terrific guy. No, he was clearly a fictitious character, but they based their entire rest of their lives
Right.
murdering a guy who was a cop. Bad cop, yeah, but a cop. So I had a problem with that. To me, that's not like, that's a...
But it's a movie. A lot of it was.
Yes,
But it's,
I get it.
but it's a continued lie. it's
What would you have liked to end?
Yeah.
The lie, right?
the rest of their lives is a lie.
And they both killed him. They both
Yeah.
participated
I
in it.
wonder
Right.
how with that.
Right.
Exactly.
That was
Exactly. They had
all
seemed to have no problem. In the movie, you saw
No.
them doing the
Well,
school stuff, the
yeah,
PTA
right.
things.
So it was unexpected. It was something, it wasn't your typical formula.
No, that's correct. That's correct. It was not
That's why
typical,
was
but
a
it
switch, so was
but
kind
it,
of
it
fun.
bothered me. It struck me as like a false note, kind of, to me.
Oh, so what would you have liked?
I saw it twice. But the thing was, as we're watching it, I said to Anne, and Anne was taking a nap, so I didn't want to really wake her to come. But I said to her while we're watching it, I said, the only way they have out of this is to kill the guy.
Right.
And then they did. You know,
Gotta do.
I don't know, but it kind of bugged me. I guess I was hoping they would find some other creative way out. They were both pretty creative in a lot of things they did. You know, the text thing, the messages he had on his phone screen,
Right.
how that was very clever. Yeah, I mean, it was fun. I give the movie 4 stars out of 5 because up to the ending, I liked it a lot. I'm not going to totally kill the movie because of just the ending, but
So you would like her to
What
be-
would you have liked to seen the ending be?
you know, I'm not really sure because I was thinking they kind of had to kill him, but there should be some other way where maybe they would be able to blackmail him to just keep him silent. Maybe that would have been another way so they didn't have to actually kill him.
You needed another hour for that portion of the film.
They did, and it was already about 2 hours, right?
Oh, like Boyhood, wasn't that a 3-day movie?
No, I don't think it was that long. It was 12 years.
No, but that wasn't the movie that was in 3 parts? It was really long?
No, I think you're thinking of the Before series, his trilogy.
No, I'm not, but it's okay.
Okay.
I felt like
Could have a different movie.
I'm not sure.
I felt used. I felt that they took me for this ride, and it was fun. It's entertaining for a while,
Very much so, yeah.
and it's entertaining and it's funny and but I kind of like it. Just kind of, I don't know, it's just disappointing. So they live happily ever after, but then the question is, do they really? And that becomes the thing. What was it? The Graduate.
Yeah.
Mike Nichols said at the end about the ending of The Graduate, that they're on the bus,
Yep.
and Elaine turns to Benjamin and says, "I have nothing to wear." That was not in the movie, but that was what Mike Nichols was saying. What's happened after?
What happens next?
What happened? And I have same thing about this one. That what happens next? Yes, it looks like they're living happily ever after, like the kids and everything's wonderful. You know, I just didn't buy it.
Okay, and I'm kind of with you on this. Did anyone ever see The Candidate with Robert Redford?
Yes.
That's perfect.
What happens next?
What do I do?
Now what? You got elected. Now what?
You know, I think we just experienced that.
But there's a lot of movies like that, tons of them.
Oh, sorry,
And
Ruth. Can you
make
get
it
one
one
more?
ending.
One more coming in. I don't.
Did anybody make anything of the psychobabble in the classroom at the beginning? When I think he was saying you can be whoever you want to be, you can kind of remake in your own mind.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what offended me at the end. That's what he did.
Jack,
And he even eliminated murdering somebody, but he recreated himself as a happily married father.
Yes, I'm not to a point. I'm about to make. Very good. Yep. Okay. Yes, Duffy. And I'll get to that in a second, Jack. Yep, Duffy. You're muted, Duffy.
I'm muting myself. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I hated the ending. And I resented that the murder was done in such a comedic way. I don't think there was anything comical about killing someone, no matter how horrendous he was as a person, which he was.
Yeah.
And I was very relieved to find out that was a fake ending.
Right.
And that he didn't kill anybody. And he didn't even have an affair with her. It was just a plot for a romantic part of a comedy. And it was, what I liked about it was that it was a true story up until that point without the love affair. for a love interest, but that this guy really did accomplish pulling off being a hitman, and that it actually morphed him in his identity so that he did a lot of acting as if, and this mild-mannered reporter guy becomes this macho guy, and the way the movie is depicted, he kind of moves closer to that more powerful person that he wanted to be. So it was kind of an alter ego thing.
Oh, yeah.
But I think there is something, and Rebecca might agree, to the acting as if, you know, the idea of fake it till you make it. So that was what I liked about the movie. And, you know, the whole romantic part was made up anyway, so nobody died. But that's what I have to say.
Okay, all right. So I'm checking my notes now from when I watched it. So, you know, I'm wondering, first off, it's set in New Orleans. The real Gary Johnson was at University of Houston, and the whole story was based in Houston. I'm thinking, okay, why is it in New Orleans?
Yeah.
And I finally found the answer: tax credits. They were better in Louisiana than Texas, so they made it there in New Orleans. Okay, so that's, and here I'm thinking, did they change it because they wanted to show that they are altering reality and not, and this is just another way they're doing it? Or was there another reason they picked New Orleans? Well, that was the reason, tax credits.
Were there multiple endings, like American Fiction kind of thing?
I did not see anything about that, nope. But I will tell you, the reason that Powell wrote the idea, wrote this movie, was because he didn't like the scripts he was getting, the parts. And he said, I guess if you want a good part, you got to write it yourself. All right, so I want to get to Jack's point, though. So it's set in New Orleans as a somewhat true story. Gary Johnson was talking about Nietzsche and living dangerously, and he had his cats named Ego and Id. So he was a psychology/philosophy professor, and he had to sign up there about memories, dreams, and reflections on the blackboard or something. Okay. I'll get to, okay. He takes over for Jasper in a situation where Jasper, do you remember why Jasper was pulled off? Anyone remember? Jasper was the agent who was blackmailed. Anyone remember?
Teenagers?
Very good. Yes. He was caught on video beating up teenagers, and the video got 9 million views. That's what the
yeah.
And then there was a time where he was talking with Madison, Gary's character, the character of Gary, was talking with Madison about killing her husband or whatever.
Yeah.
And I can't remember which one. One of them said, some people need to be killed. Right? So how did that come back later, right? At the end. Okay. So Gary, as Ron, is a doer, not a thinker, whereas Ron, bless you, Ron was the thinker, not a doer. Ron was the professor. And of course, we know the id, it's the pleasure, no consequences thing. All right, then they run into Madison's husband, Ray, outside the club, and then Jasper at the ice cream place. So I had a couple questions that were unanswered that I want to make sure to mention here. So you remember when Ray wanted to hire the hitman to kill himself and Madison?
Yeah.
And then, but Gary's very clever. The character of Gary's very clever. He says, don't turn around, don't turn around.
Yeah.
And then he shows him his face. Okay, why did he do that? Anyone have any thoughts why he showed him who he was?
Remember.
So he wouldn't do it. Right, to scare him away maybe, right? Because he knew he was a hitman, has a gun, and he better leave us alone kind of thing. I was guessing that was it, but he could have gotten away with not having him see his face.
Right.
He started that way, and all he had to do was leave. He could have done it, but he didn't try. He purposely showed him who he was, maybe to scare him. Maybe I'm not 100% sure. I had another question from the police. So they didn't show anything about the interrogation of Madison, right? She's guilty. We know she's guilty. She told him she's guilty. She was a good liar when she wanted to be, because with the phone thing, when they're recording it and he's telling her they're recording us, say this, say that. She was great, right? Okay. So she's good at that stuff, but we didn't see the interrogation. I know it would have made the movie longer, but I kind of would have liked to see that interrogation. And why didn't they search for the gun? No mention of it.
Nobody looked.
Right, nobody looked. Okay, so maybe the New Orleans cops are supposed to be really, really terrible. I don't, maybe they are.
It was Mardi Gras time.
Yeah, right. Okay. Now getting back to Jack's point, seize the identity you want for yourself. Okay, that's one of the lines.
That
And
was the professor's line.
Yeah, that was.
professor's line, right?
At the end, I think he was talking
And he wanted to be with and start a new life with Madison. Killing Jasper was just the inconvenient way to do that. I guess, I don't know, like I said, I'm not crazy about the ending. It's hard for me to try to defend it. But that seems to be what the message was. But what really bothered me though is they didn't have any problem doing it. They're not like, oh my God, we can't kill this guy. It's murder, you know, none of that. It's like, okay, well, here's a bag, you know, he's already drugged out. Great, done. We'll just put him there. No one's going to miss him. He doesn't really have a family. He's got drugs in his system. Done, easy. No guilt, really, no remorse. That bothered me. I guess that bothered me. Okay.
Well, it was a different ending. Nobody ever ended like that because you never get away with murder.
Well,
And they got
Ed,
away.
Yes.
I didn't really take this movie so seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, like he starts, he's a professor. I didn't even believe he was a professor. Like, I just didn't take it so serious. You know, to me, it was like, I don't know, an American movie, but just whatever. I just didn't think it was so fantastic at all.
All right. Well, there were other buried messages in there, kind of like Jack was alluding to. But the reviews were kind of saying what you did. I'm just some quotes on reviews here. Michael Medved, big popular reviewer. Once again, director Richard Linklater takes an implausible story and makes all of its complicated characters engaging and believable. He gave it 3.5 out of 4. The Saturday Evening Post, funny, engaging comedy thriller among the year's delightful movies. Saturday Evening Post called this movie where the heroes killed someone at the ending a delightful movie.
Yeah.
That's the Saturday Evening Post. Okay.
That's how much.
Yeah. Now this one guy, Jared Mubarak, writes, while it's not the missed salvation of cinema piece that so much hyperbole on the internet wants to exclaim, Hitman is great. Powell is a star. Arjona is a superstar. That's the woman who played Madison. I didn't love her, but to me that might be because I think her part was a little underwritten. Because she had the hots for him, and that was the focus. But we really didn't get a sense of who she was, what her motivation was, where she was going with it. I didn't get any of that. To me, I kind of criticized the writing for that a little bit.
Did anybody get the feeling that she was after the $1 million insurance policy from the beginning? And I was surprised by the ending because I thought she would have knocked off him within 2 years. I saw her as kind of a gold digger that was
Probably did.
from the get-go.
Well, that's possible, but we don't really know though, frankly. So I think that's part of the film's fault. Don't really know.
After that
You
money.
did.
Yeah, I think I thought she was after that money.
You
Yes,
did say.
I did say that, right?
But it was, yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
All right, Nancy, did you want to say something? No? Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, right. I didn't think she was after that money.
All right.
I thought he was.
Okay. KQED in San Francisco. Hitman's final act is the kind you either go with or get frustrated by. It's a big swing that tests the limits of suspending disbelief, but the movie's driving theme reflects curiosity about the human capacity for change and self-creation. Okay. Eileen Jones wrote, Richard Linklater's new film Hitman works thanks to the star power and charm of Glen Powell. You won't even mind the not entirely convincing film noir twist. All right, and then Newsday. Hitman reveals itself in classic Linklater fashion. Below the shiny and accessible surface lies something more expansive, waiting for anyone that might be open to it. Okay, this cleverly knotted crime yarn kills it, said Wang Yi Ling in Singapore. And then Frank Switek wrote, an absolute winner, a clever, inventive takedown of a sadly formulaic movie genre, marked by Linklater's easygoing style and a combustible romantic pairing of two super attractive stars. Now, some negative reviews and mixed reviews. There was a mixed one here. Vincent Mancini in the content report wrote, a pleasant enough watch, but when it comes time to choose between comic book reality and grounded reality, Hitman ends up sort of halfway between. NPR in Los Angeles. This film has no drama, no pace, and barely any character development. He didn't like it. Here's another NPR person, Tim Cogshaw. Had I not known it was based on an actual person, I would have thought, this is ridiculous. None of this happened. You're just making stuff up. Yet it's loosely based on a true, yet pointless story. Now, here was one that I got a little more on, a little more description. Louisa Moore in Screen Zealots wrote, this generic, unsatisfying, genre-blending disaster has only one saving grace, the lead actor's bona fide star power. It's a great premise for a film, but Linklater just can't make it work. While he admittedly isn't one of my favorite directors, okay, so she's already negative on him. How can you not like School of Rock? What a fun, great movie. Anyway, completely misses the mark here. The narrative is disjointed and the tonal inconsistencies are too jarring, and no amount of talent can balance the uneven, overstuffed elements of comedy, romance, and thriller. The film struggles on just about every level, but thankfully Powell saves it from being completely unwatchable. He's the highlight here. His charm and versatility shines as he navigates the complex layers of his character. This is an actor who is a true chameleon, and the film at least provides a vehicle where he can showcase his range. Powell is great, the movie is not. Yeah, and it says here about her Madison's character being, her motivations being murky at best. It was impossible to feel fully invested in her relationship with Gary's alter ego, Ron. For a film that had potential to be so unique, it ends up feeling generic and unsatisfying despite having a small theatrical release. It's a disappointing effort that appropriately feels right at home as a streaming title on Netflix.
Hold on, one of those points about that, one of them said, the supporting cast was all two-dimensional. That was the other thing. They were just cartoon characters, so that the leads could do their thing. Everyone else is cartoon.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. I can't really argue that. Okay.
Palm Beach Post rated it 5 of the best 10 movies to see this summer.
Yeah, I saw that.
So I read it. Dune was first.
Yeah.
Oh, Dune Part 2? Okay.
Yeah.
So
summer movies. I mean,
I don't know who wrote them.
It was fun, but yeah, especially if you don't take the ending too seriously. But yeah, some critics, Jack, did note that the stuff he was teaching in class was a little too on point about his real life situation, what he was going through. The guy who drives the Honda Civic, who in real life is pretending to be a killer, and then sort of takes over that persona, sort of, and kind of becomes a cross between Gary and Ron. To be the man who captures Madison's heart. Okay, so Hitman, this is from ChatGPT. Hitman employs satire to delve into the complex nature of identity and morality. The film humorously critiques the roles people play in their lives, both professionally and personally, by following a protagonist who adopts different personas. This approach underscores the fluidity of identity and the ethical ambiguities inherent in human interactions.
It's pretty.
I tell you,
Pretty deep.
very fancy talk for that movie.
Okay. Hitman challenges stereotypes by presenting its protagonist not as a traditional hardened criminal, but as an ordinary person thrust into extraordinary circumstances. This subversion of the typical Hitman trope allows for more nuanced exploration of identity and morality. The film also critiques the glamorization of the criminal underworld, instead presenting it with a satirical edge that exposes its absurdities. One of the comments the director made was that he got such a kick out of finding out that all these people who were pretending to hire him, or trying to hire him, the 70 that he got arrested, believe that Hitman's a real profession. He said, it's a total construct for the film industry. There are no hitmen in real life.
What about Murder Incorporated? They were real.
Yeah, I mean, and of course, you know, we have spies. Israel has the Mossad, and sometimes has these things, and they have people who specialize in it. And there are people who specialize in it, but I guess not at this sort of street level.
Yeah.
I know a guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you.
All right. Now,
There've been a few inquiries.
Hitman prompts viewers to reflect on the various roles they play in life and the authenticity of those roles. It challenges the notion of a fixed identity, encouraging viewers to consider the fluidity of their own personas. The film's satirical approach makes one question societal expectations and the ethical boundaries of personal and professional behavior. Okay, now the ending. Collider had a story on that. So Hitman takes more than a few liberties with Johnson's real life story. The biggest has to be the ending. Madison initially contacts Gary to kill her husband, Ray. Gary refuses, but when Ray is shot, he pieces together Madison did it. He's able to help her talk her way out of being arrested, but another police officer, Jasper, correctly deduces that Madison was behind the shooting, and thanks to a hefty life insurance policy, Ray took out on himself. Oh, thanks to that. So when Jasper ends up attempting to blackmail Gary and Madison, Madison drugs him, Gary suffocates him. This never happened. In fact, the real Gary Johnson never murdered anyone. Most of the assignments he took usually ended in the arrest of the person who contacted him. The film's ending labels him an animal-loving Buddhist, a Vietnam War veteran, and the chillest dude imaginable. Also fits perfectly with Linklater's approach to the story of the real-life Gary Johnson. Quote, I kind of enjoy deconstructing and debunking, he said when Hitman was first announced. Well, A Twist That Dark is a pretty big deconstruction for a romantic comedy. Okay.
Where does he have it?
Well, he's calling it a romantic comedy. We're not quite calling it that.
It's partly that. It's definitely partly that, yeah.
Where does he advertise for work?
There we go, Black County.
I mean, how do you find a hitman?
Yeah,
Through
through the mafia.
Not like
Whatever.
it's get word of mouth here.
Yeah, word of mouth.
Definitely word of mouth.
Okay, so Linklater's film is not a strict retelling of Johnson's life so much as it is a reinvention of what could have been. By selectively choosing to focus on the most entertaining aspect of the man's career and spinning his perfect personal life into a made-for-movie romance, Linklater and Powell's script gives Johnson's legacy the grandiose treatment that his characters always imitated, paying their respects to the man creating the same over-the-top narrative that always entrapped his clients. Powell taking a page out of Johnson's book beautifully, creating a happy ending for the man who chose not to end so many people's lives by being a fake hitman. All right, some trivia notes. Oh, you remember where the kid was in the scene trying to hire him to kill his mother? That was sort of based on a real life episode. It wasn't his mother. He actually wanted it. So there's this brilliant Houston teenager named Sean Quinn, had an IQ of 131. He gave Johnson 7 Atari computer games, $3 bills, and $2.30 in nickels and dimes to kill a male classmate he thought was trying to win the affection of a girl he liked. That was real life. The script originally had the story taking place in Houston, but due to Texas tax credits and other financial elements, they weren't able to shoot it there. Instead, chose New Orleans.
Wow.
Oh, okay. So you remember the costumes he put on for his assignments?
Yeah.
He was basing those in a lot of cases on movie characters. I identified a couple of them. One of them was the Christian Bale, Patrick Bateman in American Psycho. And another was Traitor Number 1, which Christian Bale played in The Dark Knight Rises, where Bale played Batman. And then there was another, it doesn't say it here, but it was Fred and Ann Cogan's one of their favorite movies, No Country for Old Men, the bad guy. The bad characters too. I forget. Oh, Anton Chigurh. There it is. The psychopathic hitman from No Country for Old Men. That was one of his characters. All right, now, so you said there's not much going on, but here's a little something. You remember the very end of the movie? It was Such a Night by Dr. John. So first off, anyone know where Dr. John is from?
No.
New Orleans.
New Orleans?
New Orleans, exactly. So that's the movie. But the song, the choice of the song, I'm thinking Such a Night. I'm listening to it a little. I wanted to read more about it. On songtell.com, here's the description of Such a Night and see how well you think this fits with the movie. The song Such a Night by Dr. John tells a story of a momentous and pivotal night filled with desire, temptation, and moral conflict. The protagonist finds himself captivated by someone they are drawn to under the enchanting moonlight. However, there's a complication. The person they are attracted to is accompanied by the protagonist's best friend, Jim. The lyrics convey a sense of urgency and internal struggle. The protagonist recognizes the opportunity to make a move, but is conflicted due to the loyalty they have for their friend. Despite their reservations, the protagonist contemplates whether they should give in to their desires and steal the person away from Jim, knowing that someone else might do the same if they don't. The repetitive chorus emphasizes the momentous nature of the night and the weight of the decision. The protagonist is torn between their feelings and the potential consequences of their actions. It's a night filled with, quote, sweet confusion, unquote, where the allure of passion clashes with loyalty and friendship. Ultimately, the song explores themes of temptation, moral dilemmas, and the complexities of human relationships. It highlights the internal struggle between following one's desires and adhering to societal or personal obligations.
That's very
Pretty apt choice, especially with that description, which it's an older song, so the description came earlier.
But they had no struggle.
They didn't have a, well, no,
We didn't
apparently,
see a
we didn't
struggle.
really see a struggle, but they should have. So that's all I have. That's all I have. So thank you. For next time, I want to say for next time, I'm thinking of doing Oppenheimer.
How do we see it?
It's on Amazon Prime. It just came on Amazon Prime.
great. That was great.
So that's one. The other one I was looking at was a documentary, but I have to see where it's going to be in July because it just left one of them. Inside Job. Anyone ever see it?
Yeah, we saw it, didn't we?
It was about the 2008 financial crisis.
The which? Oh, I
Oh.
think we
2008
did.
financial crisis.
Yeah, I think we did.
Wasn't that?
I thought it was,
Well,
oh,
was
no,
the
that's
movie.
Inside Man.
There is an Inside Job movie.
Yeah, I think we did see it.
I think we did see.
So yeah, so it's going to be probably one of those two.
But they're very different.
Yeah.
One's a-
So they're both great films. If you haven't seen them, see them both anyway, whichever one we do.
But there are also some reviews who said you're better off reading the book before you see the movie. There was some people who felt
Right,
there were different perspectives
right,
on what you were actually involved in.
right.
Big book.
Yeah, and that's a bigger homework assignment.
But be sure
I'm
to
just
see it
glad
in
I
two
don't have to
parts.
sit for 3 hours in a movie
But-
theater. I can sit at home.
But I did it in two parts.
Oh, we didn't.
Okay, I saw Oppenheimer in the theater because I thought it was meant to be made in a theater.
We did.
We did.
Director likes the movie made in a theater, and I thought it was spectacular. It didn't drag at all. I thought it was really very.
Oh,
well.
it was great. Yeah.
And the big screen, it was really good. So see on the biggest screen you can. Don't watch it on your phone, for God's sake.
Where the seats recline.
Yeah, because it was long. Yeah, that's right.
Thank you.
You
Thank
can
you.
take a nap in the middle.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
I'm gonna pause the recording.
Thanks, that was great.
So I'm on the non-golf course side.
Yeah.
Okay.